Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to the second installment of the third podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Brandon Jones, and I am joined by my two lovely co-hosts today. On today's topic, we're going to be looking at food insecurities and how that is affecting folks all across the nation. It's an interesting topic, something that we don't hear a lot of because we get distracted with things like relationship talk, what's happening in sports, etc. But this is something that will affect each and every one of us at any point in time, given what's going on as far as distribution, not blockchain, but supply chain demands and things of that nature, where food insecurity is something that does hit so many different communities. And if it hasn't hit yours just yet, you might want to pay attention today because it is right around the corner. But with that, before we dive into the topic, let me introduce my co-host. I'm going to bring in Kai first. What's up, Kai? How are you doing today?
Hey, what's up, Brandon? What's up, everybody? Happy to be here.
All right, perfect. And then second, we're gonna bring in Mr. A. Aaron, what's good, Aaron?
Hey, what's good, guys? Hey, ready for a great show on this really important topic.
And Aaron, I see you rocking that Atlas hoodie, man. I'm glad that it came through and worked out for you. Yeah. Shout out to Jarvis Hill.
Shout out to Jarvis, man. It's not extra medium either. It feels pretty good. It fits nice. So
it was definitely extra medium on me. So it's now my wife's hoodie. So my wife thanks you, Jarvis. I know you're gonna see this because you're one of our loyal, viewers. So my wife is definitely enjoying the Atlas hoodie. She's put multiple wears in since we got it, but I still appreciate the effort, my bro.
Shout out to Jarvis, man.
I'm way bigger than I look on camera, y'all. I mean, the pandemic was wild, but so we're talking about food insecurity. I ain't had much of that during the pandemic. I was eating good, unlike some folks, but there are folks who are out here struggling. And we will see more of this as we see inflation continuing to rise. I don't know if we want to get into how that has happened or who is to blame for that, but we've seen food prices going up for at least a year now, if you've really been paying attention to grocery bills and stuff like that. And now we're at a space and place where there are things that are just not being stocked or they're on back order because of all the things that have taken place during the pandemic. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Kai, to really dive into this topic because you've been paying a lot closer attention to some of the food insecurities that have been going on. So go for it. Tell us what's happening in our world.
Sure. Thanks, Brandon. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen that when you're going to the grocery store that you'll see items that used to be on the shelves either not there or not many of them left. And so you're thinking usually you go to the grocery store, the shelves are fully stocked. And now you're starting to see that many items that you may need or want are no longer available. And sometimes you're not even getting an answer as to when the shipment may be in. It's like, oh, well, we should get it at the end of the week. We may get it next week. So with that, that's something as Americans that we're not used to. Like, let's be honest, we're used to whatever we need being there when we need it. And the fact that it's not there, that can cause some concern. Or some of us could think, well, this is something that's just temporary and it'll be over soon and we'll kind of get back to the normal way that we're used to living in this country. But who's to say that we could go back that way? And again, as we said on our last episode, we're not here to talk about doom and gloom. We're just here to expand how we're thinking about this new world that we're living in. Since this pandemic, our lives have totally shifted and changed. And so we have to look to see what other areas that we've been used to having items right at hand that now may no longer be there. So hopefully with this, we can just have our listeners or viewers just kind of think about, is this a possibility? What are you seeing when you're going to grocery stores? Whether you're looking at food or buying cleaning supplies, are you noticing that some of the cleaning supplies, the prices are going up, but the size of the items are decreasing? So we're looking at shrinkflation. So just begin to be really aware of what's going on and how is that impacting your pocket. Now, that's probably where we are feeling it. So our thing is, how can we begin to prepare for what we're in the midst of? And if it's not a quick fix out of this, what can we do to make sure that we're able to put food on the table? So we're going to talk about kind of what we're seeing, but also some strategies that we can begin to implement in our lives.
Absolutely. Aaron, how have you seen this level of food insecurity show up in your neck of the woods?
I'll give you guys a real-time story. I went to Tropical Smoothie today after I went to the gym, and I gave the girl my card to pay for the meal, and I got a smoothie, I got a Jamaican jerk chicken wrap, and an apple. It was $15 on a 1 cent. I said, the devil's a lie. I said, what is happening right there? I said, I said, wait a minute. Time out. I said, 90 days ago when I came in here, it was 10.89. 90 days ago, not 9 years ago, 90 days. And the girl said, well, we're under new management. But then I said, no, the prices of the smoothie are more expensive. The prices of the food are more expensive. And then also the other thing is that I shop at like different stores like Kroger or Aldi's and things of that nature. And the first thing I looked at is I used to get a big bag of, I like the wings. I like party wings, y'all, when I'm watching my NBA games. And I would get a bag of party wings, throw them in my air fryer. And I would say maybe even a year and a half, 2 years ago, that bag would probably be like $8.99. That bag is like $14.97.
Eating good.
all the time. But I'm like, man, so my son likes to cook steak, a nice ribeye and things of that nature. He loves to make a nice ribeye for himself. That same steak, a year and a half ago, Kai knows it would be $11.99. It's almost $17, Brandon, like literally. And so the first thing I start to think about is this. I've got a family basically in my house because my other son is in college. So I've got a family of 2. I can't imagine a family of 4 or a family of 6 or 7. And then there's something else that I want to talk about, get into, and I know Kai's going to touch on it. But what effect does this lack of food have on our buying and spending habits and what kind of food that we're buying? Because there was an article a few years ago that said in a lot of Black neighborhoods, you're not getting grocery stores, you're getting Dollar Generals. So you can get as many Tasties cakes as you want. You can get as many Twinkies as you want, but we're not getting fruits. We're not getting vegetables. We're not getting ingredients to put, just basic things. How does this food shortage cause us to change our behavior? Because now we're just like, well, you know what? I'm hungry. Screw it. I'm just going to get a honey bun. And then all of a sudden you just start making those poor health decisions. So I'm just curious about Kai getting into the content because I think this is something we don't think about, but if we kind of look around, it affects our behaviors tremendously.
Absolutely. As somebody who does have that family of 4 or 5 now, the grocery bill has increased significantly. Let me just say that it's, I think this is actually pretty moderate. I think we do pretty well at shopping. But we probably spend maybe like $300 every week and a half, maybe every 2 weeks on groceries. And I have little ones, so their burn rate isn't as much as if I had teenagers and things like that.
Right.
And they eat at school, which there's also been an impact there where the school has run out of food or the school has encouraged parents to pack extra snacks and things like that for the kids because they can't, deliver them, or they've changed the menu. Because typically in school, they'll give you a menu like a month out so you can help plan for your kids if they have any allergies. And stuff like that. Yeah. Man, they will update that menu with the quickness if they run out of something. So we've been feeling it. There was one point in time they didn't have any milk in the morning for the kids. So in order to give them milk for lunch, they had to restrict milk. So they were just eating dry cereal. It was all types of stuff happening. So we're feeling it all through institutions as well. It's not just in our individual homes, but I think about places like senior homes. I think about places like group homes, even jails where people need to be fed because of these institutions, but these institutions are also feeling that pinch also. So it is a very interesting dynamic that we have going on for all types of citizens.
Yeah, and especially when it's hitting our most vulnerable, like what you mentioned, Brandon, as far as places that maybe people that, money is a little tight. So maybe you would go to like a food bank or something like that to help you. Maybe that food that you would get from the food bank could last you until the next pay period. So that way you can get some groceries. But what happens, and we'll talk about this later in one of it's either a video or article, what happens when the food banks are looking and saying, listen, we know we need donations because our shelves are scarce and we don't have the food to provide to the families that are coming. And because of everything that's going on, and Erin, I know you could speak to this, because of financially everything that's going on and people either losing job, reduced hours. So you may have more people that need services that the food bank provides. So the food banks are also looking for an increase of people that they need to serve. now in the midst of a shortage. So it is concerning, but I think that there are some things that we can do to try to make sure that our families are being fed and try to do this in a healthy way. So we're not just buying like bags of chips, but still getting our fruits and vegetables.
Right. Ho-hos every night ain't a dinner, y'all. It ain't. I mean, you might try it. I don't know how that's gonna work, but it ain't gonna work.
I mean, that really speaks to a bigger problem too. And this, you'll hear this from food shelves. They'll tell you this, is that a lot of people don't know how to prepare meals. And this is something that's been on a huge decline. And it's funny because we hear about this in like the manosphere space. Like, oh, she don't know how to cook. Well, a lot of brothers don't know how to cook either, man.
Right.
No, a lot of people don't know how to cook. That's been an art form that has been on a steep decline with the advent of fast food chains.
That's true.
Then as you increase it with DoorDash and Uber Eats and things of that nature, people really don't have the incentive to cook. So when you go to a food shelf and you have limited options on what you can get, you got to know how to work those ingredients in order to feed yourself and your family. And there are people who don't, or they don't live in environments where they have access to the tools you need to cook, like pans and strainers and, all types of spatulas. Like, people are out here really struggling and they don't know how to even prepare these meals and make them stretch. And I think that's something generationally that we've definitely have lost, I would say, over the last maybe 3 or 4 decades, where we would hear things like, oh, grandma knew how to stretch that egg and feed 8 kids. And, we'll get that one big pot of spaghetti last us all week. Well, shit, that ain't the case anymore. There's people out here, they'll be lucky if they get a scoop of spaghetti because it's hard because ain't nobody really cooking, because they're hitting up that corner store and they're getting that juicy pickle, those hot Cheetos, and that Fanta. Like, that ain't gonna cut it, bro. That ain't gonna cut it. Then they want to mix it with the lean. It's all bad. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, man. Fanta and
but that's the meal. that is the meal.
That's the hood meal. That's the hood meal.
Social experiment. If you feel comfortable and safe enough, go to your local gas station. Actually, just go to your local corner store. I don't even gotta have gas pumps. And just sit there. You might have to be strapped depending on where you at. If you're in Atlanta, you gotta keep that pole on you. Just sit there for like 40 minutes and just watch what the younger people, just watch what anybody is purchasing inside and outside. Or go in and talk to the cashier. Hey, what's your most popular items that you sell? I guarantee you it's going to be some type of high fructose corn syrup drink, probably some blunt wraps or something that they can get quick in the back. And then it's going to be some chips. Those things are going to, I can almost guarantee it, man.
Yeah, and all of that takes a toll on your body, on your physical body. So I know we're talking about the financial aspect, but if we're eating foods that are highly processed, high sodium levels, all of those different components that our body does not need to have, and we're consuming them in high quantities because we have, many times in our communities, that's what we have access to. So that's what we're grabbing. That can have consequences related to chronic illness. When we're looking at diabetes, heart disease, high cholesterol, those are all different type of health conditions that can come out of eating an unhealthy diet consistently, not drinking enough water, drinking all those sodas that are high in fructose corn syrup. All of that is, not something that is going to help our body operate at its optimal. And that's something that you need when you're in situations that are highly stressful that we're living in right now. If you're not eating foods that are nutritious to your body, that means it's also not nutritious to your brain. So are you going to be able to think clearly? Are you going to have brain fog? Are you going to be able to make important decisions during this time? So everything that we're doing as far as food is going to have an direct impact on our health.
Absolutely.
Do we want to transition to the article?
Yeah, let's get to it. Let's get it.
Let's make it happen. All right, here we go. So this is the first article that we're going to look at today. It didn't feel like $80 worth of food. Inflation is making it hard to make healthy food choices. Take it away, Kai.
Okay. So when we're looking at what's on the shelf and what is available to us, you may say, well, there still is food on the shelf. When I go to the grocery store, I still see items, but can we afford those items? And if the cost of our grocery bill continues to go up, that is of concern, as we were just talking about, when you're trying to feed a family of one, of two, of three, and trying to make that budget stretch. And so in addition to that, so this is not even talking about if you buy organic food. So in my house, I try, even though Dwayne gets some sometimes, but I try to get organic, but that is expensive, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, it looks the same. I'm like, but there's a difference. But so when we're looking at how are you going to eat healthy when we're experiencing these type of inflated costs, that's a whole nother layer of concern as well. So when we're talking about food scarcity, it's not only that not seeing items on the shelf, but we're also looking at these increase in prices. And so I think I mentioned this in our last episode. There was an older gentleman, and he was saying how he was having difficulty basically having enough food to eat. So he was going to senior centers to have food for lunch. And the problem is that he still had to pay. I think it was under $5 that he had to pay to have lunch. The only thing is he has competing costs because he has medical bills. He also has his rent. His rent is going up, and he's trying to find a way. Okay, how do I make sure I eat? In the midst of everything that's going on. And so we have to look at how is this impacting all aspects of our lives. So we just spoke about health. If we're not able to get the proper nutrients because we don't have either access to them or we can't afford them. And also we're seeing an increase in our in the pricing. And so how does that impact us as well, mentally, emotionally, physically, now that we can't afford these food items that we need? That can also be very stressful, which that all starts that same cycle. Because even if you're dealing with chronic stress, that's definitely going to have an impact on your overall health.
Yeah, that's pretty intense. There's a YouTuber that I follow. Shout out to Uncle Hotep. He often talks about going to the food shelf, and it's funny. He's a parent. He has 2 daughters, and I think he's engaged or married. And people are like, "Why are you going to the food shelf? Like, you got a pretty successful YouTube channel, etc." It's like because it's there. They got good quality food there, and he lives in Pennsylvania. And he's always he makes like a trip every once in a week. He says, the stuff that they don't give away ends up getting thrown out. So why not? And it always baffles me, like the level of shame and guilt that goes into accessing food and things like that, where there are people who really need it, and there are some people who just need it enough to get by, but their pride won't allow them to access it. And I think that when you're faced with your back against the wall and you're faced with these choices, I hope that we can destigmatize getting that type of assistance and lowering that pride just to make do and move forward. And it's unfortunate when we have seniors like this gentleman who literally, he doesn't even have enough income to kind of keep him going, to keep him stabilized, to keep moving forward. It's unfortunate.
I remember because in the town of Virginia that I live in, we have 2 stores. I don't know. I mean, I can mention them. Aldi, and also there's a store. It's a German brand, I believe, called Lidl. I'm not sure if y'all have heard of that. Lidl. I remember when I first went into Aldi, when they opened up, let's just say like 12, 13 years ago, and people were like, "Oh my God, you shop at Aldi? Oh, excuse me, I only shop at this grocery store," and things of that nature. And, my family and I, we continue to shop there. And now I see everybody in there. Everybody is shopping because what they're realizing is that, because also with this town I live in, a lot of people do like bulk shopping. Some people don't want to drive 45 minutes to an hour to go to your Costco or your Sam's Club and things of that nature. And so when I started to notice that, you got to bag your own groceries, just little things, Kai, just really little things. And like you bag your own groceries but the first thing I thought of is that these are companies like Lidl is a German company, and they have they have literally grown exponentially over the last 10 years. And their model is discounted items and things of that nature. Certain things are fresh, certain things are not. But when I'm looking at this article, I'm like, did other countries see the problem before it actually happened? Because all these discount food models are becoming very popular. These stores are packed. I'm just wondering, if this was something that has been slowly creeping up and slowly happening, and then all of a sudden the pandemic exacerbated it, or do you think this was just a pandemic thing, Kai?
Well, in preparing for our discussion, I did see that several months ago and years ago, pre-COVID. Oh, I don't know if I should have said pre
C-word.
that thing.
C-word. Yeah, bleep that out. Bleep that out, Brandon. Bleep that out.
Right? That there were articles talking about what if there was an issue of food scarcity in the U.S. Now, I didn't see anything that said like something like a pandemic would be the cause. I think it was more so of dealing with looking at increase in cost of living. But I don't know if they were taking into account what we're seeing right now. And maybe even they were thinking like, down the line, we may face an issue with food scarcity because of population. And then we have older people are living longer. So I think there were other factors that they were possibly looking at. But now we have pandemic. Now we're looking at how that's affected the, what am I trying to say? The chain of us being able to get our groceries, our food items, and whatever is happening with Russia and Ukraine, the impact that that's having. So I think these are all factors that they weren't counted for, but there was that discussion of what could happen, or is this a possibility in this country? And I think at that point, we would say no. We couldn't imagine going to the grocery store and thinking that we couldn't find our favorite items. So now that we're kind of faced with that, it can be a little scary because we as Americans, we're just not used to that. We're used to, right, like going on, ordering Amazon and having whatever we need tomorrow. So this is different. This is definitely changing how we're going to be operating in society now. There is a video here. I think, Brandon, if I could send it to you. This video is a family sharing what it's like now that they've seen this increase in food prices. And this woman has, I believe she has a baby. So that's the other part to it. We're seeing an increase in formula. One article I read shared that there were some of these food banks were having issues with getting formula for mothers, for fathers, for their children. So this is impacting everybody. Nobody is kind of escaping what we're seeing.
All right, let's check out the clip.
Well, get ready to pay even more than you already are. Not just on gas prices, we're talking about groceries too.
Yeah, that's right. So before you get dinner ready, listen up. 10 Tampa Bay's Adure Achumba shows you how the rising cost can really impact your family.
Whether it's vegetables, dairy, or poultry products, it's starting to cost more to stock your refrigerator up.
Notice that they are slowly raising the prices of each little item, probably about 25, 50 cents. So it's subtle, but I definitely have noticed it. And it all adds up.
Like many across the country, mom of two Maggie Arias says she's seen food prices go up over the past month and a half.
Milk, cereal, eggs, meat has gotten really expensive, and even the vegetables that I thought used to be so inexpensive have actually been really expensive now.
In a recently released March 2022 report on food price outlook, the USDA predicts a continued rise between 4 to 6% through the rest of the year. Arias says with a newborn and special dietary needs in the mix, her family is spending almost $2,000 a month on groceries.
Baby food is really expensive, and I think that has always been expensive. So things like the Pediasure and the special baby oatmeal. But there are things that I've noticed and I read online that we can make our own versions of it at home.
The USDA says food items are at their highest in decades and impacted by global incidents like the Ukraine-Russia war, supply chain issues caused by COVID lockdowns in China, inflation, and an avian flu outbreak.
We are cutting back to mainly things that we really need, unless it's a special occasion, like a birthday, then we splurge and get like snacks and things like that. But otherwise we try to keep it basic.
Along with couponing and finding sales, Arias is getting creative.
We started using some meal delivery services, and actually these meal delivery services that used to be so expensive are actually almost the same.
Now, on top of rising grocery prices, the USDA says the cost of takeout and dining at restaurants has also jumped. So expect to pay up to 8% or higher there, especially on meat and seafood.
You know what I appreciate about that newscaster? She don't have that newscaster voice. She was just her. I like that.
Oh,
She just sounded like how she would sound if you just having a general conversation. That's awesome. Yeah. So that video brought up a lot for me personally. Like that's kind of like my life is we've kind of experimented with a few things throughout the pandemic when it comes to delivery services and where we get our groceries. Like my wife is a big Trader Joe's shopper. She goes there for pretty much anything she gonna eat. She goes there. But for myself, we have a grocery store called Hy-Vee. And we were shopping there so frequently that I just signed up for like one of their memberships, which was like $100 a year. And that membership had all this exclusive like discounts and coupons and stuff. And it actually helped me save a whole ton of money by just signing up for that discount. I would say that $100 probably helped me save like maybe $400 with just grocery shopping just in general. And with that membership, we get free delivery to the house. So if we're too busy to, go get the groceries, we can get them delivered or we can pick them up. So there is a level of bargaining and being savvy that we definitely can do, but it depends on where you're located. Because I know that in some communities, that's not an option. Like they're not delivering no groceries to your crib. So, I think part of this is being smart in how we shop and being very strategic on what our needs are, kind of like what this mom was saying. Like, we're not splurging unless it's a birthday. We're not splurging on specific things like snacks. We're going to get the bare minimums, eat what we need to eat, and keep it pushing.
Right. And this is just, don't know this lady from a hole in the wall, but just kind of looking at what she was purchasing and where she's, her home. It looks like that was possibly a middle-class family. Right. So we're looking at possibly a middle-class family making hard decisions about how are we going to spend our money on food. So what does that mean for many of people in our community, which we talked about in our last episode? You had brought up that article where a lot of our members in our community are making $15 an hour. Mm-hmm. So how are we able to kind of shop around and find the best bargain for our money? Do we have a car to do that? Or are we taking like a bus to then go downtown, to then take the bus to the grocery store? Is that our version of shopping around, trying to find the best grocery store where our money can kind of go further? So these are all things as a community everybody should think about, but especially communities such as ours. I think this is something that we should definitely pay close attention to and see what are ways that we can save, and also can we start buying in bulk? If you have a family member that has a Sam's Club card or Costco, or if you can buy in bulk on Amazon, that now may be the time to do that because the food prices are only going to increase. So now may be the time to start making some bulk purchases of items that you purchase pretty frequently.
Yeah. I actually, so I was just thinking about this. I use Instacart pretty frequently, probably about every other week and a half. And the last time I used it, maybe about a week and a half ago, there was a surcharge for delivery costs. And there was also a charge on there for fuel costs, something that I've never seen before. And, the one thing that people forget is that additional cost and these rising costs with inflation and everything that's involved in it, they're going to pass it over to the consumer. That like it's not going to dip or dodge you. They're going to pass it off to the consumer. But Kai's just said something really important, because when we do the numbers and we're really looking at when we have all these statistics and all these articles that talk about Black wealth or Black income and how it's been suffering. And so my thing is, these conversations, and this might be the mental health aspect of it, Brandon, these conversations are happening internally with people, but because we want to have a facade or this like fantasy world we're talking about it, we're not being honest about what's really happening. I know a lot of people that are struggling. that are having problems getting food. I know a lot of people that are using EBT, a lot. I know a lot of people that are having to make certain decisions. And some of these decisions, me and my homie back in the day, we used to go to Wendy's and they used to have this thing called we used to call it the $4 holla because it was a 4 for $4. You know what I'm saying? But we were in sales and we were broke. But some families are using the 4 for $4 now as a meal to feed their children of 2 or 3. And that's what I meant by some of these choices that we have to make, because fast food, if this keeps happening, fast food gives the illusion, as Kai said, it gives the illusion that it's a better alternative, but it's not, because what things do we lose when we're not cooking with family, conversation, equity, intimacy with family members or just a partner, whatever your family dynamic looks like. So the food scarcity has effects, well, just more than just your pocketbook. It affects even your lifestyle. But I do think Black people are not telling the truth, because I am a person, God knock on wood, I don't have issues buying groceries, but I am even paying attention to what the costs are. What are other people in other communities that may be a little bit less fortunate? How are they responding to it? And I agree with Kai, like that's a middle-class family. It might be the husband is out there working. Who knows what his income is? And the wife is holding it down. And she's like, this stuff is going higher and higher and higher and higher. And that also goes into another conversation we'll have on another show. Do we like budgets? Are we even in our homes budgeting properly and things of that nature? We have to be real, because I didn't like a budget until I was broke. So then you need one. You know what I'm saying? I was like, okay, time out. Wait a minute, I gotta have a budget. So there's all these things that are going on, but I think food is at the scale. That was a great article, but it's something's got to. The numbers ain't adding up, Brandon. Something's not right, man.
Yeah, the math ain't mapping. That's what my wife always says. The math ain't mapping. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that there is a psychological factor here. But I think it says more about our level of pride and acceptance of not having a lot. Like you mentioned budgets, man. Like how many people do you actually know that have budgets, like legit, and they're trying to like stick to it, which is, I don't know a lot of people. Like if they're not like a financial, like somebody who's really about their money, like I think about some of my family members or somebody, like, they ain't really budgeting stuff. They come in and come out. It come in, come out. It's like, I need this much to pay for that. And once that's gone, then I got to figure out the next thing. And it's like this give and take mentality. It's a super hustle mentality as well that we champion. And when you say things like budget, that's like speaking a foreign language to folks. Like, what is that? It's like, and like, yeah, budgeting is important, but it's hard to have a budget when you feel like your money is already gone before it even hit the account.
Right.
So it's hard, and that's one of the things too, where, I don't know how to have that conversation in the community about like financial literacy, because I hear that all the time. Like that sounds hot, but have people actually tried that shit? Like I've tried it. I've put together programs. I've gotten grants to put money behind it. And you talk about come to a financial literacy class, people looking at you like, bro, what? Like coming to know how much we about to get paid for coming to this class? And you're like, well, we got a $25 gift card if you come. You're like, no, I'm straight.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, these conversations with like food, money, and just these things. I mean, truth be told, Brandon, it's the equivalent of somebody having to admit that they're an alcoholic or something of that nature. Like it's like literally that's what it is. And the only reason I can talk about it is because when I was broke and I had to be honest with myself and my family and my friends and people that cared about me, I'm like, hey, I am not as disciplined as I need to be, and I need some assistance in this area. Like it also shows you that you're undisciplined in other areas of your life. Now, it does give you the opportunity to get help, but that has to be released. And it's okay. And I mean, I want Kai to talk about this stuff, but it's so many other stigmas that we need to talk about, especially in reference to like food and just the things you talked about at the beginning, Brandon, about women and men and cooking and all this stuff, as we're acting like it's now becoming taboo. Like we're going to be the healthiest group of people if we're sitting around eating ramen all day. Like, what are we talking about? What are we saying? So I
Right.
want to get to some more of Kai's articles because I know she's got some more great material. I want to dig deep into it because I think this could be constructive.
Okay, let me see if I can pull up. This is another article. Let's see if I can share my screen. And this is what issues that we may see coming this summer. So let's see if I can pull that up.
Yeah, while she's pulling that up, it says no mention of the record money printing by the Federal Reserve. Well, the money printing was just kind of, me being in the financial space, basement, the money printing was just a Band-Aid on a big cut. And, once it's over, now we see increased interest rates. Now they're going to stop printing the money. Inflation is high. And now they're trying to correct the problem naturally. But I also think that it gave a bigger issue as it showed how many people were struggling. And that's what happens when you have an economy that's not backed by anything. They just think that you can just print money. Well, at some point, that money also becomes worthless if you can keep on printing it. And so that's one of the things that we have to be careful of. The dollar has already dropped. So no, you made a great point, but this country does not know how to do anything, else other than print money, because some of the things that you actually have to do to repair the economy, a lot of people are not going to like what happens because you're going to see higher interest rates. You're going to have to make different buying decisions. And so it's going to affect people's behavior. And we're a nation built on debt. And credit. So great point. Great point. Go ahead, Kyle. Sorry about that. Just want to address that.
No, that's an excellent point. And you know what? Through all of this, it made me realize, or maybe kind of think, like, do we produce anything? Like when it was like all this supply chain breakdown because our oranges come from here, or this comes, and I'm just like, so what do we do?
When you say
But
we,
I guess
who are
that's
you
a whole other
referring
story.
to?
She got to be specific, Brandon.
Yeah,
I know,
we
right?
as in who?
So we as a
Speaking
nation,
French now.
as a nation, I don't think we really, I think our toilet paper even comes from like China or something. I mean, it's just like, so, when you have those supply chain breakdowns, we are definitely going to feel the impacts because as a country, we're really not producing any consumer goods.
Yeah, no, Kai, but I think the point is that if we do make stuff, the wages are so high in order to pay those people that's why companies, because we don't want to get too deep into that rabbit hole, but capitalism is a part of it, but also you have to be able to substantiate paying those wages to produce that stuff. And so if, like Brandon talked about last week, if I can export a product or I can import it and the cost is a tenth of what it'll cost me to make it here, most businesses are not going to do the financially fiscal responsible thing. They're just not. Right. And the problem is you've got more companies that are exporting or that are importing things than making stuff. Now, companies are trying to do it, but there's all these different labor laws and unions and things of that nature that kind of go into it. So the production that we saw in this country a long time ago, when you think about like GM, and that's why Black families, were able to just work at the plant and put a kid through college, because you no longer have that structure anymore, it's extremely difficult. So now that's a great point. What do we make? And more importantly, what do we grow? And then, that's a Black farmer conversation as well. But 5 grocery shortage that could happen this summer. All right, Kai, get deep. What we got?
All right, so let's take a look at this. So this again is looking at the supply chain breakdown, what we've been talking about. Most recently, you guys have probably heard in the news about the palm oil. That I think that's happened because of lockdowns in Malaysia. So that's going to affect export. And here, even in this article, we have that to make matters worse. So this is in addition to the lockdowns in Malaysia. To make matters worse, Indonesia banned crude palm oil exports last week. So that can affect the oil that we're purchasing, but also, as was mentioned in that news clip, how is this going to impact restaurants? So even the whole thing of, going out to eat, you don't always want to cook at home. You want to go out to eat. What is your bill going to look like at the end of the night? Sunflower oil. So these are just a couple items that may impact us as far as what we will have access to. Wheat, grain, and corn. This is oftentimes this is a staple in folks' diet. So if there is a shortage of this summer, and of course meat. How many of us want to throw something on the grill during summertime? So if we're going to see either a shortage or that there's the price has gone up dramatically. So this could be a situation where now that when we want to have a steak or chicken, maybe it's going to be the case where that's only for special occasions. Like, could it get that expensive where eating those type of foods that you save for special events? And of course, baby formula. This is all concerning. Looking here about shortages and limiting the amount that consumers can purchase. So if you're a person that says, you know what, because I see what's going on, I want to make sure that I stock up, you have to make sure that you're paying attention to what's circulating in the news, because there could be limitations to what you're able to purchase. And I've seen that, especially with cleaning items, that there's a limit to what you're able to buy. So these are some things that could be hitting us this summer. So if you want to stock up on meat, that'd be great. Or these other items, if you can get your hands on them now. If you have the space in your home and you can purchase one of those large freezers, you can just buy some things in bulk and just put those items in your freezer. That way you have something that you can go to when these prices continue to rise.
So Kai, sometimes I would watch those doomsday preppers things on A&E and stuff. And I'll be like, man, this dude lost his mind. Why the heck you got 47 packs of baked chicken in your freezer? This makes this sound like very, very real. Can you talk about how in our community, do you think we should be, I think you just answered the question, but I think it's a really good point. I think it sounds like what you're saying is that we need to prepare a little bit more, that we need to start to try to stock up as much as possible. And how can that help us? How can that, I know it might seem basic, but how can that help families by stocking up, and what cooking behaviors can that also cause as well?
Oh, for sure. I think that's an excellent point. I think we as a community, because we're so used to living that paycheck to paycheck already, just because of there's a history of reasons as to why. So looking at preparation and also kind of looking at what's coming down the road, oftentimes we did not do that or have not done that because we're just in survival mode. We're just, listen, how many times have you heard, I'm just trying to get through the day. Like, I'm just trying to get through the week.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to get through the month. So we're not thinking, okay, what's happening a year from now, 5 years from now? Because we're just trying to get through the day. So this type of conversation that we're having tonight is causing us to expand our thinking. It's causing us to expand our it's causing us to change our lifestyle. So when we're starting to think ahead, how do I prepare? That's something that traditionally we haven't done. But I think that it's necessary because of these rising costs. We're seeing that our household, when we compare to our white counterparts, is much lower than what they're bringing into their home. So therefore, if we can stock up on meat, if you're a family that you're like, listen, I like my organic produce, or I like my organic vegetables or whatever, then now is the time to see, is there a way that I can stock up on these items now? That way, when the price starts to go up even more, which from what I'm seeing is projected to continue to increase, you can say, okay, don't worry, kids, don't worry, husband, don't worry, wife, don't worry, partner, whomever. Listen, we have what we need in this in our freezer, and because I've been preparing for that. So even if you're getting things now, so say if you're going to the grocery store and you're able to get an extra pack of meat, an extra, anything that, even a canned good, try to get the kind that's low sodium, but even if you can kind of get an extra of whatever it is that you're purchasing, that is a great thing that you can start to do. So I say that because it's not as though you have to load up your cart and you're thinking, how can I afford that? It's so what are some small changes that I can make to begin to stock up now?
That's a great point, Kai. That's a great point.
I'm going to throw something in there too. For folks who are living with the people and they don't have the space, or you might be in an apartment, another strategy that you can implement is just like how a lot of fitness people do, is meal prepping and making your meals stretch. So making rice dishes, pasta dishes, soups, things of that nature that can be eaten multiple days, chilies, things like that. They can be eaten multiple days in a row. Might not be ideal, but helping you stretch out that meal and stretch out those ingredients can also help you as well. And I know that's something that's tough for some people, just because they may lack space or they may lack storage and things of that nature. But figuring out, you got to strategize in these times. Like, you got to be smart. Can't just be balling out and watching Instagram and deep frying salmon and putting in all creamy pastas and all that. Like, that stuff looks great. I'm serious, man, because we get influenced by that stuff. And I know y'all on Instagram. I know y'all be seeing it. The chef got the black gloves on, and next thing you know, they sprinkling big old salmon chunks on top and it's deep. I'm like, this is getting wild, man.
I cannot tell a lie.
Yeah,
I was in South Carolina and I had a deep fried turkey stuffed with crab meat. Okay, like they were getting creative, and it wasn't that good either. It wasn't good at all.
It looked good
but he held it, and I was like, man, what am I doing? But yeah, that's it, man, Brandon. I think what you're saying is so true, and we talk about it, but partnerships, people getting together, people creating healthy relationships. Food costs, like, this is something really, really basic, but if you're a guy and you're a gal and you guys can kind of figure it out, 2 incomes is better than one, specifically for families. I think that this is really, really important. Like, if you have young people in the house or anything of that nature, or even teenagers, college kids, talk to them about this stuff. Like, hey, we need to conserve, because what we don't want to create is this fantasy that everything is always available. Because, in this economy, as we've already seen, things can change just like that. I mean, just like that. I mean, folks, we act like we didn't just see people lose their daggone mind 2 years ago over some toilet paper. Like, for real. Like, this was a real thing. Like, I was like, yo, ain't nobody got no toilet paper? Like, so can you imagine if we're really in that spot? So this is important. But, it also, to me, it also looks like what Kai is also saying is that, if meats are increasing in price, and she didn't say it, you might also want to consider different alternative forms of diets and eating different things as well. So a lot of vegetarian might be an option for some people out there. Less meats, more, different seafoods, but whatever it is to make your family and your household budget works, I think people need to get serious about it and kind of start taking a look at it.
Totally agree. And that's actually a perfect segue into the other video that I wanted to show, because why this conversation is so important about preparation. What happens if that safety net, such as a food bank, what if they're experiencing shortages too? So what if you can't go to your local pantry to provide some assistance? So I'm going to share this video as well. And this is about, I think this may be in...
I got it for you. San Antonio?
Yeah.
I got it. All right, so we're going to check out this video. Empty shelves at San Antonio Food Bank sparks worries ahead of summer.
And this is recent too, y'all.
On the shelves and worry over what's to come. The San Antonio Food Bank says they are bracing for the busiest part of their year. And look at these empty shelves. They are especially concerned for kids.
According to the food bank, inflation causing more people to reach out and ask for help. However, donations of food are down.
Alicia Barrera takes us inside the warehouse where volunteers hope things will pick up before it's too late.
Worry is starting to creep inside the warehouse that's usually stocked up.
If you walk through our warehouse, you could almost see from one end to the other through the shelves because it's mostly empty of the non-perishable food items.
With inflation only intensifying and summer just around the corner.
Summer is always our highest time of need.
Michael Guerra, Chief Development Officer with the San Antonio Food Bank, says it's the perfect storm.
The gains that people made in their wage have been eroded. Our numbers are actually up compared to how they were in December. And with summer looming, and that means kids who are going to be out of school aren't getting breakfast or lunch at school.
The need for items is immediate, and they're depending on community partners like the United States Postal Service to stock the shelves.
We have letter carriers across the city that will be going out and collecting food from everybody's mailboxes or everybody that leaves any kind of food on the mailbox.
Any bag will do during the Stamp Out Hunger Food Drive, the largest one-day food collection effort in the nation.
It'd be nice to go to every single house with 2 to 3 cans of food.
So some of the more immediate items that are needed at this time include peanut butter, jelly, rice, and beans, but exactly how much of that is needed to fill these shelves? A lot. We're talking about 4 million pounds of food. And if you can't really picture that, Let's put it in more simple terms. About 118 wheelers stocked up, or $7 million worth of food is needed. So what you can do by Saturday, May 14th, you want to leave a few canned items in your mailbox or come here to the San Antonio Food Bank and drop off your donations. Reporting live, Alicia Barrera, KSAT 12 News.
Man, let me hop in on this one real quick because people might not know this. Most folks know I've done therapy and been in the mental health space, but I did co-manage one of the larger food shelves here in Minneapolis for about a year and a half through one of the organizations I work for. That warehouse that we just seen is a massive producing food shelf. Like that is, you don't see that everywhere. That's a well-oiled machine too. When you see those big crates with the numbers on them and people in those freights and going up and down, like that's a big operation. Most food shelves don't look like that. So if those big organizations or operations are hurting, I can imagine what your typical food shelf looks like.
Wow.
Your typical food shelf's like in the basement of a church and stuff like that. It don't look like that. And that's wild, man. Like when they're talking about, 100 freights worth of food, like you ain't gonna get that through people dropping off a brown bag full of groceries. That ain't how it works. Most food shelves on that magnitude, they get that food, they actually pay for that food through grocery stores. So when grocery stores have way too much produce, so they have an overstock, or they have produce and goods that are going to expire within a time where they can't keep it, they will sell it to food shelves like that, and then they will get those food items out. This is a massive problem, and I don't think people really understand what's at stake here. Another thing is I'm on the board for an organization called Every Meal. And what Every Meal does is they give out these boxes of food to children through school. So I think it's once a month or every 2 weeks, depends on the program at the school. These children will get, like after school, they'll get a box that's culturally specific foods. And it takes a lot of strategic work, a lot of planning, and a lot of organization from people who can make things happen to get folks food. And I don't think people really understand what it takes to operate a food shelf like that. And I'm saying, if they're hurting, boy, the other food shelves got to be in some pain.
Well, Brandon, so in order so obviously, they're barren, but I guess my question for you and Kai is just, what is I guess they had a period of time to where they just weren't getting any donations. I mean, because you're basically just looking at barren shit. Like there was nothing there. So typically there's some level of inventory coming in. So not only has the inventory come in, but the other thing people have to realize is that the food they had is gone too.
Yeah, the demand went up too.
Yeah, the demand went up and no inventory. Wow, that's a huge issue. Mm-hmm. That's a huge issue.
And you got to understand, for a food shelf at that magnitude, they're ordering food weeks ahead of time. They're not just ordering the food like, oh, we ran out of spaghetti noodles. Let's call, Kroger's. That's not how it works. So if they're not getting the stock that they need, that's pretty significant. And listen to what the reporter said. They needed peanut butter. They needed jelly. They needed rice. They needed those staples that stretch. And if you don't got those, you are in a bad position. And if you pay attention, they didn't use it. But if you read through the lines, they wasn't talking about us. They was talking about Ambuela and all the rest of them, because that was San Antonio. They had a Latinx, I guess I'm going to say that. But they had a Latina reporter who was reporting on this and letting folks know, look, it's our community and we're struggling too.
Yeah, and so when you see that, when people are, when they don't have food, right? So what happens? Like, will we start to see an increase in petty crime? When you're hungry, your kids are hungry. So what does that mean then for our safety? So we could look at this as, oh, my favorite food item isn't on the shelf. Or, yes, some of the shelves are empty, or we're seeing a situation like that. But we can't just see that as isolated just about food. We could see an uptick in people that are like, listen, I need to feed my family, whether it's stealing food or other petty crimes that are going to take place that people need to put food on the table. So this concern goes beyond just food. It actually can go right into our own personal safety.
Great point. And we've already seen that. We've already seen people losing their minds, and it looked like some of them got food. So I can't imagine what this looks like.
They do.
For
now.
Yeah, for right now.
We see them fighting in McDonald's and Wendy's and all that. That's where it goes down. It ain't safe. It ain't safe.
Stop fighting over them onion rings, y'all. Stop playing, man.
Now, how many people have you seen jump through the drive-through window in the last like 5 months? Just out of curiosity. I know
The last 5 days, bro.
And what is with the Popeyes chicken? People are like, and really, this is what we're doing. This is where we are.
I am too under the weather to be cracking these jokes. I'm about to die myself over here, man. But yeah, like we're joking, but there's a serious point to be made here too. We haven't hit that critical mass point of hunger where folks do need to go out and the streets got to eat. Literally, like we haven't hit that right now. The crimes are just done off of clout and some status, and that's it. It ain't due to the bare minimums. And I hate when they say this stuff on the news, or we get these folks, I'm not even gonna say who they are, these folks who come on and they're like, well, we know those African Americans are hungry and they're stealing to feed their babies. No, they're not. That's not what's going on yet. People are eating good enough. But if this continues, we are not going to be eating good enough. I didn't see a lot of people running up in Kroger's. I seen them running up in Louis. I seen them running up in Best Buy. I seen them running up with the local, boutique clothing shop and shoe store. They wasn't running up in the local food mart. That wasn't what was happening.
That's a fact.
But when that does happen, it's going to get dangerous because there's going to be other people there too who also need food. And then we're going to see a real civil war pop up, and we're going to see some casualties, unfortunately. And we're going to see those stores hire private security to protect their goods and their belongings. I don't want to see that happen, because if it does happen like that, we will lose. I know people think that we got warriors in the street and that's our warrior class. They're just misguided. Well, they don't know how to shoot very well, and these technical teams do. And I don't want to see no more casualties or no black folks, especially if we just got to eat. And I just want to put that out there.
No, that's a good point. And this goes to when Aaron was talking about those preppers, they were preparing for this and worse. And so when you look at preppers, yes, they're preparing for food, but they're also preparing for, to protect their property, their life and their property. So they have been waiting for such a time as this. And so, so they're the ones that they've been stocking up food. And, I will bring this up. They've been stocking up on ammunition. I mean, they are ready. And so we as a community, again, very vulnerable, we need to take this very seriously, because as you said, people have been preparing for years, and we're just like, oh shoot, I gotta go, I can't find some bread, I can't find this, I can't find that. And then you're going up against people that are like, oh, I've been stocking up for 5, 10, 20 years. How do you survive in a society like that?
Yeah, I don't want to hear what y'all mean y'all closed. Like that. Hey, it is what it is. like it's about to get.
And we saw that, right? We saw the
stores
closed early.
Yeah,
hours changed. We saw that during the pandemic.
Hey, Kai, question. So for the families out there, we might have a family that's listening, and they are very keenly aware of some of the food shortages, and they're on a budget. But one of the things that they're running into is they're trying to figure out how to eat healthy and not have it cost you an arm and a leg. Do you have any tips or strategies available for families that are trying to get some more fruits, trying to get some more vegetables into their household, not frying everything? Just even little things, because sometimes people are like, oh, listen, if sometimes you don't have to use grease and you can use an air fryer, it's a win.
Yeah.
We got to start from where we are. Everybody's not Dr. Sevi approved, y'all. Sorry about that. All right. But any like tips or strategies that maybe you've seen individually, or you've seen that help families that are in that conundrum of, I want to eat healthy. Family would actually like to try it too, but it's actually cheaper to eat worse.
Sure. So the thing is, you first have to realize that you're worth the investment, right? So we have to look at it as, okay, I'm worth the investment to it. And it still may cost a little bit more, but we have to realize that we're either going to pay now or pay later with having health challenges. But I would say to families out there, if you could buy organic, that's ideal. But let's be honest, a lot of times that's not the case. So I have seen some nutrition experts say that if you are unable to purchase organic food, there's some foods that you can consume that it doesn't necessarily have to be organic. And there's others that you should consume that should definitely be organic. So that's something that I can provide that list after the video. I can provide that in the description of those items. But I think things such as strawberries, those are things that you typically want to buy that are organic. If you are buying non-organic, if you can peel off the skin, because a lot of times the pesticides are absorbed right into the skin, so you don't want to eat the skin of that fruit or vegetable. So you can remove the skin off. That will help kind of reduce what you're consuming. And again, we can only do so much because, to be honest, we're still breathing in toxic fumes and whatever else is kind of in the air. So this is not to drive yourself crazy, just doing some practical things. So if you want to, instead of frying food, baking food is an option. Instead of using canola oil or vegetable oil, using coconut oil. If you can get, again, organic is great, but if you can't, just get, coconut oil, use that to fry food. Just the other day, I fried fish. Instead of using flour, I used almond flour. And sometimes that can be a little bit more expensive. So that's, that's something you want to continue to use. Is that something you can buy in bulk, or just something that you do occasionally, something that you don't do all the time? Oatmeal, just to kind of switch up the oatmeal, you can add fresh fruit to it. Instead of adding sugar, you can add maple syrup. If you like honey, you can add that. So there's a couple different things that you can do to bring variety, so you're not getting bored with your food, but also eat in a manner that is healthy. So I can also provide some other tips that Brandon can put in the description box of the podcast.
Absolutely. And we'll throw them in the Facebook group as well. Okay. So good tips. Good tips. What do you all think about farmers markets? We haven't really touched on those. Are those popular in your areas?
I love them. The chances that I can get out there and get to them, but I think, Kai might agree. It's the cost. It's still the cost. And sometimes these farmers they'll literally tell you, I'd have to up my prices just to even keep up. Because it takes so much hard work and labor to even extract a lot of those fruits and vegetables that they have out there. So some of those budget deals or some of those fresh fruit stands that we used to drive past that used to be economically viable and it'd be an advantage, not an advantage anymore. You're getting a fresher fruit, but sometimes the prices used to be better. That's the part that I'm no longer seeing, is that they literally are trying to be like, we have to charge more because we don't have a cost, because it's costing us more to produce the food, to pay the labor, just to get it from the dirt, into the basket. So that's what I'm seeing. Kai, what are you saying?
Yeah, that's true. We're starting to see that the food is fresher, but a lot of times the price is going up. Also, oftentimes these farmers are getting bullied or pressured by these larger companies to only grow certain types of food. Right. So that's also affecting farmers' their ability to produce the type of produce that they know that their consumers love. And so there's just corporate money isn't everything. And so we're starting to see that affect, unfortunately, our small farmers as well. Where they're, like I said, they're being forced to only grow certain foods so that they can put food on the table. Because, as you said, they're feeling the pinch too. They have to feed their families. Costs are going up. So if we start going elsewhere, which we're trying to find the best way that we can spend our money, it's just really a domino effect. But I think you did raise a good point. If we can buy local, that's great. Even if you go to a grocery store, sometimes you'll even, like a Publix, that's by me. Sometimes you'll see items that are from a local farm. So if you are able to do that, even better. So those are some great strategies that you can use.
Perfect. Well, I think we have talked about this topic. Hopefully we gave enough, substance for people to kind of think about their own lives, add some strategy. Final thoughts. We're going to go to Aaron first. Final thoughts, sir.
I think that if you have a family or even like individuals, and I even throw this out there for like friends, if people are struggling, this is a really good time. If you do have some close, healthy relationships, partner up with somebody, And I'm talking to guys too. Like, I'm being real. You got some guys, and you guys are maybe single guys or whatever, you're struggling or whatever it is, and food costs, y'all can maybe have 2 days a week to somebody. Look, whoever's the cook in the group, hey, we'll help get the ingredients and we can cook these meals and bring them out to each other, and then we can share them like food prep. Families, same thing. Try to figure out easier meals that you can cook. Get everybody's resources into the house and start using them. Got kids that are working, get them in on it. Because I just think that things are going to get worse. Inflation is not going to slow down. They're saying that it might even get to the point to where it might be 15 to 20%. And so just a basic economic term means that if you had $1,000 last year, this year you got 800. So that's, you think about $800. Well, if that's groceries, now you're even getting you're getting less food than you got the year before, and the food is more expensive. So we just have to get creative. We have to get creative, and they're also going to pass these cost increases over to us in fast food as well. So now you're still getting bad food, but it's even more expensive. So I mean, we just have to make some different kind of decisions. Cook as much as possible. Find a healthy relationship, partner up, and I think people, like Brandon said at the start of the beginning, you can start watching some videos, and there's a million videos on YouTube, y'all, that people have tips. Kai just gave us some tips about things that you can do and how to prep properly, and it may not cost you an arm and a leg. Start to do your research, because this is the trend that we're going to continue to see.
Man, good insight. You just gave me an idea. I'm gonna throw that out to whoever wants to take it. Some men getting together doing something like man-made meals, and they create like a social group where they just feed each other, kind of like a firehouse. That's what firemen do. They make big meals, they eat that stuff all week, they share duties, etc. That can be a social enterprise, and guess what? There's some money out there where people can get it and get that funded and paid for. So there's an idea for folks where you can just literally help support men. These dudes can be, middle-aged men or seniors or little kids or whatever, and you just make these massive meals for men to come get and go on about their business. It's a great idea. So anyway, over to Kai. Any final thoughts for you?
Yeah, I'm so happy that we covered this topic. I think it's something that we definitely as a community need to pay attention to, and not feel as though everything is out of our control and there's nothing that we can do to prepare right now. And I know everyone is making hard decisions right now as it relates to their budget, and with gas prices and rent increases. I mean, it could feel that you are getting hit in every area of your life. But one thing you can do is to strategize. And if you create a budget, if you begin to look and see how much food that you're spending during the week, maybe you have to cut going out as much, eating out, I should say. Maybe it is eating more foods at home. If you're able to kind of shop around, if you're able to cut coupons, look into that. Sometimes there's different type of sales going on online, and try to shop local. Sometimes also that can help cut down some costs. So the thing is to talk to others, as what Aaron was saying, like, start a community, talk to other people. Hey, where do you go buy your bread? Where do you go buy your chicken? Where do you go buy? Start having those conversations to see where you can go to get the best deal. This is not the time for us to just kind of live this life as individuals, but we really need to come together as a community.
Absolutely. Thank you, Kai. My parting words is you have to have some strategy around your food. If you don't, you will be left behind, because there ain't a lot of folks out there left to save us. As you can see, the food shelves is hurting. A lot of these programs are struggling. And if you get left out in the dark by yourself and you can't eat, that's one of your basic needs. It's a physiological need. Things can get dark very quick, and I don't want to see that happen to our people. So be very smart, be strategic. I want to thank you all for who joined us live, and thank you for the folks who came on the playback. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and make sure you share this with somebody that you care about. This is the third podcast where we discuss this, that, and the third. We will see you again next week. Peace.